Hello and welcome to a new episode of The World of Company Secretaries. This is a show where we interview different company secretaries in India and abroad, which will help you to get inspired and become a company secretary and prosper in your career. And joining us today is a special guest, CS Vinay MA. Vinay MA completed the company secretary course before his 21st birthday, and his journey has been amazing over the past 12 years. CS Vinay MA is presently working with the Wipro Limited. As you know, Wipro is a multinational company. It has operations in over 6 continents, virtually the entire world, and they are having more than $8 billion in revenue. So it's a big company and it's a huge responsibility which Vinay is taking care in his role as the manager in corporate secretarial department at Wipro. Of course, Wipro has a bigger team. Vinay is part of the team, but he's having a huge responsibility and doing a great job there. Before we go into the interview, we should just understand a little bit background about Vinay. Vinay is basically a commerce graduate. He has done his LLB. He has obviously completed the company secretary course, and also he's done his National Law School course in Masters in Business Laws. And what is very interesting is that Vinay did the course at a very young age, and this will inspire a lot of people who are still in their plus 2. Vinay started off as a company secretary at Subex Limited, and there he was handling all the matters relating to listed companies, listed compliance, and there he got a huge opportunity where he also was the compliance officer of the company at a very young age of just 24 or 25. And it will be very interesting to learn the entire experience and the story of Vinay. I'm sure you'll get very inspired. So let us go into the interview and talk to Vinay in this episode of The World of Company Secretaries, which is an interview show with top company secretaries in India and abroad. Let's get into the interview and talk to Vinay. Hello, Vinay, and welcome to our show, The World of Company Secretaries.
Thank you, Alok. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you and your viewers.
Yeah, so we are happy you made time for this. So, Vinay, as you know, most of our audience are students who are studying the company secretary course, and also there is a group of audience who are just pass outs or freshers and working in different places. And they would really love to hear from you and your experience. So before we go ahead with how did you start the course and all that, first we'd like to understand what you do now. The company that you work for, your role, responsibility, your designation. If you tell in brief, I think that will help our audience to understand.
Sure. Thanks, Alok. So happy to talk through my experience, my journey so far. And happy to share some of the anecdotes on the way. Hopefully that will convey some messages to the audience. So currently I work for Wipro Limited. Like you said, it is a large IT conglomerate, a global IT conglomerate with more than $8 billion of revenue. It's a very well-known name. I don't have to say much. From a CS perspective, I'd like to point out a couple of things which makes it interesting for me. Wipro is a 75-year-old organization. I think you can say that about very few companies in this country. This company was incorporated under the 1913 Companies Act. So you can imagine that the company itself has seen 3 company laws, and we are just a part of this journey. It is a listed company. It is listed in India. It is listed in the United States. So it is as far as complexity goes from a corporate law perspective, it has it all. There is nothing that this company has not done or not seen. So it's a great challenge for someone like me to be able to go into the company and make a meaningful contribution because the stakes are so high. The bar on corporate governance is so high. The values and ethics are so high. So I think it's a great company to work for, and it's one of the best governed companies in the world. In terms of role, if I can just touch upon a little briefly, we are a very energetic team of 8 within Wipro, and we take care of all the corporate law compliances. So that includes your board meetings, your shareholder meetings, your compliances with SEBI laws, your Companies Act, your FEMA, and things like that. So the usual plethora of complex laws that apply to listed company applies here. An additional layer of complexity for us is that we're listed in the US. So a lot of US SEC regulations apply to us, starting from Sarbanes-Oxley Act and things like that. In addition to that, we have more than 100 subsidiaries world over in about 55 countries. So this team handles all of those compliances world over. So it gives us a great insight into corporate law structures and compliances in different countries, and that's a great learning. We do a lot of mergers and acquisitions. Wipro is known for that. That's a great experience for a CS professional as well, to do national and international M&A transactions. Other than this, Wipro is known to be sort of a trend setter when it comes to best practices and compliances. So we engage a lot with regulators on policy advocacy. We are invited sometimes to be part of committees and things like that. So that's a great experience as well, where you can really contribute some of your best practices to make the laws and systems better. So that's a brief overview of my role and what Wipro does, Alok.
Yeah, I had one small follow-up question. You said there are more than 100 entities. So, and you have a team of about 8. So Indian entities, and I think you said about the US listing. So overall, in general, how many entities will you be handling? Your entire team, that is.
Oh, the number it keeps only going up as we expand our business. Right now, like I said, it's more than 100 companies globally. That includes Wipro Limited, the listed entity in India. We have a few Indian subsidiaries, and then we have, you could literally say 1 or 2 subsidiaries in most of the major countries. So you could say UK, US, European countries, Asia Pac, Australia, Singapore, you name the region, there is one subsidiary there. So, it makes it very, very interesting for us and challenging at the same time.
So Vinay, you told us about the role which you're handling, and it's a huge conglomerate. Of course, everybody knows about Wipro, but only after you told, I'm sure many of our audience will have an idea of the magnitude of the number of entities, multiple geographical locations. And you also said that because of the best practices at Wipro and the secretarial practices and generally compliance, you get invited on different committees, and which can be shared and which will eventually become policy. And I'm sure that's a great experience and you're doing a great job. But now we want to understand, when was the first time you heard the word company secretary? Today, you may be in a big MNC handling a lot of work, multiple geographies, multiple laws, and a huge compliance regime is there. But there must be in a day where the first time you heard CS, and how did you take up this course?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Alok. It has been some time since I reminisced about those moments. So thanks for taking me back to those memories. Well, actually, I was like everyone else, a young aspirant trying to make something about my career and my life. I still remember that day. I was in second year pre-university, which is the equivalent of 12th standard, and my father came to me and said, "Hey, have you thought what you want to do next?" And he gave me a very, very interesting and an inspiring perspective. He said that, "Look, I have a friend of mine. I just want you to meet his son. He's all but 21 and 22, and he has completed CS, CWA, and CS." I was literally shocked to hear that someone so young could be so accomplished. So the next day I went and met him, and that's where my journey started. When I saw someone so young having done so much, it just led me down the path of CS. I was automatically inspired and gravitated towards this course. And back in those days, the CS chapter was affiliated or attached right to the college where I was doing my pre-university. So it was just a stone's throw away. So I walked into the institute, I looked at the course materials, I looked at what all things are there. Of course, I didn't understand much at that time, but all I knew was that here is a course that propels you literally into a very, very niche set of skills, which not many people have, on which there is a large amount of focus. And, that literally got me hooked, and that's where my journey started. Thankfully, I have not looked back since, and I can proudly say that was the right choice to make.
Sure. So it was 12th standard that you first got to know, and your dad introduced to a person who had already completed CSCS, and that's what inspired you to take up the course. I also asked this question particularly to you because in two contexts. One is you finished the CS course before your 21st birthday and you had to wait for your membership. That is one thing. That is how important is it to start early. And very recently, just a few days ago, the ICSI has come out with a new decision which says that even a student who has passed class 10 or 10 standard can provisionally register for CSCET, though he has to write the exam after 12th standard. So ICSI has realized that even at the school level, 10th standard itself, we have to introduce and students can register and they can become a student of ICSI. So with this context of these two things, and someone who's already done it like you, how important is it to start early?
It's absolutely important to start early, Alok. I think I would like to give this message to all our young and budding company secretaries. Keep time on your side. I am an example of that. I have lived through it. There is nothing called too young to be a CS. Alok, like you mentioned in my journey, I started immediately after my 12th standard. So on day one, when I joined my Bachelor of Commerce course in Bangalore, I had already enrolled into the foundation program, as it was called then. It was so seamless, the journey. And of course, it was, in hindsight, I can say it was all beautifully planned. But little did I realize at that time that, how much effect it would have on my career. As I progressed through my BCom, I progressed through my CS. The foundation exams came. I went and wrote it and say, hey, let me give this a shot. I got a rank in foundation, a very good rank, and that just got me hooked. From that point on, I was totally invested. This was my course. This was my profession. BCom is something that came naturally afterwards. So, one thing that I want all students to realize is that the more you put on your plate, the more you stretch yourself, you will discover your own abilities. And, the way I did my course is that by the time the third year of BCom was done, I was done with one group of final. Let me tell you, there's a lot of talk about whether you should give all groups together, one group at a time, etc. I just didn't have to think about all that because I had 3 years to do the course. I just did foundation in 1 year, the intermediate in the year after, and then just gave one final group by the time I was done with BCom. Right. So this seems a very simple and seamless way to do it. And the CS course and syllabus is so beautifully structured. I still believe to this date that our curriculum and our materials are so good that, any other degree course that you're doing by the side, be it a BCom or a BBM or anything like that, you will automatically find that to be a little more simpler than your CS course. So I want students to think of it that, at the end of your degree course, you'd almost be there as a CS, right? I have seen a lot of people who have done their degrees and then started saying, okay, what next, right? So you do not want to lose out those 3 years. The idea is to build up as many professional qualifications as you can. After I did my CS, I went on to do my LLB as well as Masters of Business Law in National Law School. By the time I was done with all of this, I was still young, right? So that is the advantage, right? So you have the whole career ahead of you. At the same time, you built up a solid qualification. So I would really encourage everyone to, during those initial years, really test yourself. And trust me, those challenges that I and many of my friends went through at that time stands us in good stead today, because we have the ability to take multiple things. We have the ability to simultaneously be successful in a lot of things, and you learn the art of taking stress, but at the same time coming out successful. So it molds you in the long run. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so I think the message is very clear for everyone who's watching this. If you know about CS course and the moment you know about it, that is the best time to take up the CS course instead of waiting, let me finish my degree or let me do something else. The message is very clear. And in Vinay's case, or even somebody like my case, we had to wait till 12th standard or what we call PUC and then take it up. But now, even after class 10, you can take it. So whoever is watching it, don't wait on taking up the CS course. And Vinay was telling about his student days of BCom and doing CS together. Here, Vinay, can you tell us a little more about some of the anecdotes of doing BCom and CS, and you are also very active with the CS chapter and its activities. How did you manage all this?
Yeah, Alok, again, it takes me back to some great memories. I did BCom in Christ College in Bangalore. And, during the BCom, I was so caught up in the entire college life. It was in a class of, let's say, about 80 students. I was the only one who had registered for company secretary. So you can imagine when everybody else is celebrating the new year, here's one guy sitting and studying for an exam that a lot of people have not heard of. So some very interesting times.
Just one small thing, Vinay, because see, the people who are watching it might not know, when Vinay or me were writing exams, we used to have exam on December 31st and January 1st. Now that's not the case. Just giving that information. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Alok, thanks for pointing that out. All our exams, and for me, all my attempts were mostly in December. So 3-4 New Years of my life have been with CS books rather than going outside. So what I was coming at is when you're a student, and especially when you're studying, you will have that dilemma, saying, do you go with the flow like everybody else? You see people around you who are probably doing different things, probably doing things, taking lesser number of courses, etc. And it is quite natural at that age to be influenced by the need to have fun. Your mindset is different at that time. But trust me, if in those years, if you put that extra effort, it will go a long way. You have age on your side, you have experience on your side. And let me tell you, that didn't stop me from having fun. I had the best 3 years of my life in college. At the same time, I finished my CS course. So don't go with the view that if you do one, you can't do the other.
Okay. So now that you finished your BCom and you are also written one module in the CS final, or what we call professional right now, can you tell us a little bit about your training days? Because training forms the foundation of our entire learning. Yeah. So how did you go about your training, and how was that experience?
Oh, the training experience was really good. In fact, let me share a couple of anecdotes on the way. I think our viewers may connect, especially the students. Back in those days, before you had to enroll for training, you needed to undergo an orientation program. I think it is there even today. But you need to undergo that orientation program. And here I was straight out of college. No connect with the CS Institute whatsoever, and I went and attended the training program. During the course of the training program is when some speakers came to take the sessions for us, and I was able to discuss with them or have conversations during the session or outside of the session, which sort of helped me actually gain a training with that firm. I still remember those days, when Vinod came to one of our sessions. Vinod is one of our leading professionals, and he spoke to me, and then he went back, and I think he told JS, saying, "Look, this person seems a good candidate. Do we want to consider him?" Then another day, JS came for the session. And then after that, I was at their firm interviewing for a position of a trainee. All of that just happened just like that, and I didn't even realize. And I was there in one of the leading practicing firms as a trainee. The message I'm trying to convey here is that for students, with every interaction, always assume that something good will come out of it. We are a profession that depends a lot on networking and close connections. You never know. Every interaction, do your best, be on your A game all the time. And I have seen this on multiple occasions in my life where things have come out without you realizing it. So it always makes sense to be on your A game. Training was great fun. Actually, I really got into the profession at that time because I could see practically what was happening, whatever I had studied, how it really pans out on the ground, handling a lot of clients, visiting your ROCs and your regulatory offices, etc. Conducting due diligences of large corporations. It was an absolute thrilling journey. I went in with the mindset that training is all about learning. Keep everything aside for a moment and just focus on learning. And I can say that, that set a really great foundation where, you have done everything for the first time and done it well. So future, you're sort of set as far as, your personal caliber is concerned to, or appetite is concerned, to work on corporate law matters. So that way, my training journey was really good. I have a few more anecdotes, Alok, but maybe during the rest of the discussions, I'll share
Sure,
that.
definitely. So the message is very clear for everyone who's watching it. Training is more about learning, because we get a lot of questions from students, sir, what is stipend, etc. But when you learn, you'll be able to earn much more after training. So please concentrate on learning. And Vinay, our guest today, is one example where training formed the foundation for his entire career ahead. Talking
Yes.
about career, Vinay, can you tell us about briefly about where did you start working and how was that experience? Because training, whatever you do, you still are a student, and you can afford to make few mistakes here and there. But once
Yeah.
you are a company secretary and working for a corporate, the game is different. So can you tell us about your first job and how did that go?
Yeah, no, it was actually fun. It so happened that towards the end of the training, I happened to be deputed to one of the large listed companies who needed someone for a half a day to come in and support the team. And like I said earlier, how the opportunities come and knock at your door. I spent almost a month working half a day in that company. It was tough in the sense that, that company was on one part of the town. The training was on another part of the town, and I stayed in a totally different part of town. So, you get up in the morning, head to one corner of Bangalore, finish your lunch, head back to another corner of Bangalore, and then you come back at night, back to your home and do this over and over again. But, it really helped me because, the company secretary there sort of noticed the kind of work I was putting in. And at my MSOP, he was one of the speakers. He came and just said, do you want to work with us? And again, I go back to that same point for all the viewers here that do your best at every occasion. You never know what's going to come about. I'd like to believe that this is not just a matter of luck. This is something that came out because of the efforts. My first company work experience was great. Because it was a listed organization. I had not done listing compliances before. And you would not believe, I was given to handle everything from day one on my own independently. It was scary, at the same time exciting, because every time something is given to me, let's say a simple stock exchange intimation that you make, it really put me on guard to think that what is the law here? Am I doing the right thing as per law? That is the basic thing. In addition to that, am I doing the right thing from a best practices perspective? So it made me go out, look at other companies, what they have done, discuss with my fellow professionals and say, look, is this the right way of doing it? Is this not the right way of doing it, etc. So, those first 2-3 years where I would say really shaped my career, because I was doing most of the things on my own. And that put me really in a position of having ownership of my own work. And as a consequence of that, I would be extra diligent, extra careful. And that approach has continued with me even today. When you get a task, you should have a 360-degree view about it. You should do enough homework, both in terms of law as well as best practices or talking to people around, etc. So when you go with an approach like that, most of the work tasks become complete. And over time, they become less complicated than they seem to be. So that was one aspect of my journey. The second aspect of my journey was that something that I cherish even today is that even though I was young, I was 21 when I joined that company. By the time I spent about 4 years there, I actually became the company secretary and compliance officer of that company, the main company secretary. So I must have been all about but 24 or 25 when I was made the company secretary. It was a great thing to see that seniors in the company, right from your managing director, you're the head company secretary, all of them are willing to support a young professional who is doing good. And that really gave me that, trust in the entire scheme of things, right? So because as a student, you will have all of these thoughts and inhibitions saying, will I get the right amount of work? Will I get the right amount of leverage or promotions? And a lot of such questions come. But that really made me believe that quality always triumphs. And that is the case even today, regardless of how young or old you are. Quality is what matters, and that was an important lesson that I got. At 24 or 25, I was sitting in audit committee and board meetings of large listed company with an independent board, and you can just imagine how nerve-wracking and exciting it was at the same time. There are people in the boardroom whose experience is more than the age. So
Exactly.
people are more than 25 years of experience, and here is a 25-year-old who is sitting and talking about corporate law. So great fun. I think those formative years really helped me become a good professional.
Yeah, I think what our audience should really take out of this is that, yes, it was a coincidence that the firm where Vinay was working and the opportunity which he got his first job, but that is just a mere coincidence. But the work ethic which he had put and the effort, and also during his 1 month at that place, it was not just that he was going through the drill, but put in the effort, and people will observe you, people will recognize you when you have that quality of the work and your interest and passion, and it's a coincidence, and then you will be able to do really well. So Vinay, now you're talking about listed companies, so I think I'll come to that question. Since you have seen the listing compliance and worked with a listed company in your very first job at a very young age, so you have seen almost a decade or a little more than that with respect to listed companies. How is the entire regulatory regime changing for listed companies? And how do you see the next few years with the regulatory regime?
Yeah, Alok, great question. So actually, I have seen the compliance regime for listed companies evolve quite a bit. And, this is for the last 2 decades, I would say. We have gone from looking at listed company compliances as to more tick in the box kind of an exercise where you file your quarterly returns, where you file your half yearly returns, to a more evolved and a principle-based regime. And I think there are 2-3 things I would like to highlight. And I'm not going into the technicalities of the thing, but more the way the market is looking at listed company compliances today. There is an increasing focus on how companies behave and how the culture and the values are at the company. That could start right from the way the promoters think about business, the way they run their business. Is it ethical? Is there a sense of integrity? Is there a sense of focus on giving back to the society, or supporting the stakeholders around you? There is a lot of focus on how the governance mechanisms are structured. For example, how is your board composed? Do you have the right people on the board? Are the independent directors really independent? Are the independent directors doing the job that the regulator expects them? Are they questioning the status quo? Are the executive management bringing the right amount of decisions to the board? Are they being open in preparing the board agenda to the most detailed extent possible? Are they engaging with board members beyond just the 4 times a year? There is a lot of focus around these governance processes, which was not there earlier. There have been some events in recent times which have also strengthened the focus on this, and all of us know these events. So I would say that we have really gone now to a place where governance is no longer a choice; it's a given. There are multiple stakeholders expecting the highest standards of governance. And it is proven that a company with a high governance standard versus, say, another competitor with not so high governance standard, your customers and your clients will typically choose the company with higher governance standards. So governance is not just a compliance exercise anymore; it's more a value addition to your business, right? So that is one aspect of how the law is evolving. The second aspect is how the regulators are perceiving, over the years, the regulators have become increasingly effective in implementing the law. That puts a lot on us as CS professionals, right? And we have seen this in multiple forums that the regulators are asking either a company secretary in practice or a company secretary in employment to do those things that the law requires you to do. So we are sort of the conscience keeper. We are the custodians of these corporate law, corporate governance norms in the organization. And the last thing I'll point out, Alok, it's a very interesting trend for listed companies, at least in India, is this combination of media focus plus shareholder activism, right? And the media focus, according to me, is actually a great thing for the profession. Because it's suddenly now mainstream. I have seen TV programs which are non-business channels running things about corporate law and corporate governance. Front page articles are devoted to corporate governance. There are a lot of advisory firms that now advise on whether the decisions that are being put to the shareholders are correct or not. There is an evaluation of companies' practices, not only from a law perspective, but also from a best practice perspective. So, all of this has put CS at the center. And I'm really excited about that because your role is that much more important. You have the ability to make a direct impact for the listed company. So I think all in all, it's really exciting times for listed companies, Alok.
Yeah, I think this is the value add which we get when we talk to somebody on our show, The World of Company Secretaries. What is interesting is you brought out about the media attention for listed companies and corporate governance and also shareholder activism. So we are in the forefront and in the front page of different newspapers and stuff like that. So we will stay with this topic a little. Again, if you see in the last couple of years, there are many more companies which are getting listed and they see the advantages of accessing the capital markets. And also traditionally, we have seen that a lot of startups only go for PE funding. It's also because people believe in that and they take a long time to break even or they're continuously in losses. But it's very clear now in the next couple of years, you'll have the big startups or what we call unicorns who will get listed. It's invariably going to happen. And that is one side of unicorns, that there are also a lot of this SME listing, which is happening right now, which was not the case even 10 years ago. And the latest is even the startup listing, which is happening. Do you see more and more work and importance for company secretaries with all this listing happening, with more companies coming to the capital markets?
Yes, Alok, you're spot on. I think that situation has already come today where, a company looking to go for a listing, hires a strong CS governance professional much ahead in advance to prepare for an IPO and things like that. It is going to be the case that a lot of companies are going to access the capital markets. It's a natural evolution for startups that, you will have your PE funding, etc. But after a point of time, for whatever good reasons they may be, you will want to access a broader market for funding. And the way our financial markets have evolved and become so strong, both in terms of structure, laws, and the regulators that oversee it, it's a very natural choice. And investors are comfortable investing in IPOs. Institutional investors are comfortable participating in good companies. So there is a lot of focus commercially on accessing the capital markets. Here's where the CS role comes in. I think focus has gone a little beyond that. We used to always say having a CS is a mandatory thing, right? Be it under the Companies Act 1956 or 2013. I think that focus is slightly shifting away. CS is being seen more as a differentiator, a value adder to the company to set the governance standard. And that comes a lot from, the culture of the organization, how governance is viewed, combined with the couple of things that I mentioned, the media focus, the shareholder activism, etc. I see that both for in-house company secretaries and practicing company secretaries, there's a lot of scope in security law compliances. And, there is so much niche area. There's so much, value add that professionals can do. I can only think of it being, better and better as the days go by.
Yeah, so I think the message is again very clear from Vinay, and this is really great discussion which we're having. One small thing for our viewers. In fact, last week discussion, our guest CS Rahul Sahasrabudhe, he's on the other end, securities law litigation, and he was telling us that how big the securities law litigation market is and why company secretary should get into that. And now we have Vinay telling that how the CS role is not just seen as mandatory appoint company secretary, but more of a need, more of a value add, and a differentiator who will help the company grow. That's very interesting to know. So now,
if I can add one point
please.
there,
Yes.
so let me just give a little on-the-ground example to say what I was trying to convey. Today we can see increasingly that company secretaries, at least on listed companies, are called to give views that are not purely legal matters. So, for example, let's say there is a disclosure to be made in the financial statements. The CS is called in to weigh in on that, to say that is this the right disclosure? Is this the right amount of continuity of the regime, legal regime that we've implemented? Is this going to be seen as compliance with accounting standards? On the other side, for example, let's say your company is coming out with a new product launch. Now there are provisions under SEBI listing regulations which require to make disclosures to the market. So the CS weighs in there to say that what disclosures need to be made, understand what the product launch is about, is it material to the business, etc. There's another angle to it, let's say, where there is a litigation that's happening. So, this is something where people may get into analysis of whether it's a material litigation, whether you need to inform the exchanges, whether you need to inform your boards, your customers. For example, let's say there's a data privacy breach, there's a leak of someone's personal data. So in every aspect of business, there is a element of corporate governance or corporate law, and the CS is going to play a role in ensuring that we are complying in spirit, we are doing the right thing. So what I'm trying to say is that your role is so broad and all pervasive, and that's something that's really exciting, in the field of listed companies and securities law.
Yeah, I think that's really coming about in the discussion that you're having, and what you're sharing is really of great value, especially since most of our audience are somebody who is on the brink of getting into companies and finishing the course. It makes us understand that the value of a CS is definitely there, like you told, but the gamut of the laws and the compliance and how broad are opportunities for the CS is something which is really coming out in this interview, and we're happy you're sharing it. So here, one small thing, Vinay, since you've also done the law, and when you're talking about the company secretary being called upon for his opinion on traditionally things which he or she was not called for, how important is studying LLB for a company secretary course? Do you feel it's essential, or is it still fine to just do the CS?
It's a really good question, Alok. I think, and this is my personal view, that it is essential that a CS professional does LLB. And this is a very natural convergence. Company secretary is a specialization under law, similar to, for example, a litigation is for an advocate, right? We are all branches of law. Just that, there is a separate recognition as a company secretary and an officer under a statute. In practical terms, I have seen there's a very natural extension of not only roles, but also mindset. Because, as a company secretary, you handle corporate law, you're aware of the company's position and corporate matters. You're sitting at board meetings where boards are discussing a lot of aspects of compliances and law. It is very natural for a CS to also handle law in companies. And as you know, there are many companies where the head legal and the company secretary is the same individual.
Yes.
So both from a practical perspective, as well as now these days regulation perspective, for example, where secretarial audits are required to focus on beyond just the corporate laws, right? The laws that otherwise affect the business. CS is actually doing or being held responsible for things beyond just corporate law. And companies prefer someone who has a dual qualification, because you can add more value when you have visibility to both sides of things, the corporate law sides of things and the legal side of things. So it makes you a complete professional. So I would encourage that everybody who does CS should also do law at some point of time or the other. I would go on to say that you should also build more portfolios beyond just CS and LLB. So there are other courses in the market, a master's program or a specialization in other aspects of law. It is going to be for your benefit for the rest of your career. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So now you're talking about law and CS, and you also mentioned briefly about how you can take up some further specializations with respect to law. Now, a law are the other subjects also. For example, I was just talking to one CS where he's handling the risk management portfolio, which traditionally CS never used to do.
Yes.
So that is one small example where our audience can understand. Vinay, moving further a little bit, now we are talking about the listing compliance and how it is evolved, and you told us about the role of CS is much more important and wide right now. Can you tell us, being observing all this for over a decade now, what are the trends which you're seeing in the CS profession, especially coming from the corporate angle, and what are the future prospects when we look at a horizon of, let's say, 7 to 10 years in the future?
Yeah. 2, 3 key trends that I see for CS, Alok. So one is on the overall aspect that the professional standards are going to get significantly elevated. We are no longer going to be professionals who are just doing the compliances that law expects us to do. We are going to be taking on increasingly important roles in companies as companies look to be better governed, look to be doing everything in the right way, in the right spirit, etc. So I think from where we are today, and we are already at a really high standard today, I think the institute is doing a great job, and professional bodies are doing a great job. But the professional standards are going to get significantly elevated, which means that for someone who's starting off, you have the ability to really scale up and build your profile along with the industry and the profession itself. So I think 10 years down the line, there's going to be a significant elevation of professional standards. That is point one. Point two is, I want to really stress on this is digitization and adoption of technologies. I see that things are going to become increasingly virtual, and I see laws evolving to allow for, let's say, permanent video conferencing meeting, be it for shareholders or board meetings. I see a lot of our compliances becoming even more virtual. I hope that our regulatory filings between different regulators will become interconnected in such a way that one day it will come where you just file one form and 10 regulatory authorities just pick up whatever is relevant for them from that common filing. And I think we're seeing that digitization in a lot of regulatory processes. We are moving towards that. And as a professional, I think we should greatly embrace technology without having any fear of, whether it will make us obsolete and things like that. Because, it's just not possible to make a human being obsolete. There is still that those things that a human can add value that technology cannot. So embracing technology, I think 10 years down the line, all of us are going to be quasi techies, if I can call it that, in addition to our focus. And the other thing that I see for a future trend is that, I think more and more of our professionals will become independent directors on boards. As corporate governance takes more and more center stage, experience of a CS may gain more and more value. And I really see that trend that, maybe 1 decade, 2 decades later, boards will have a CS professional as an independent director. And that would be a great day for all of us to see when that becomes the norm in corporate boards.
Yeah, I think, again, what you're sharing is really insightful. But now we'll just understand, again, from the angle of a student, because very often after watching these interviews, some of our audience say that, sir, all this sounds very complicated. How will I do something so difficult? But like everyone else, we were also students. Our guests were students one day, and you can go ahead. So here, what are the qualities do you think as a student that people can start learning and skilling themselves? You can talk about 3 or 4 qualities and skills which is required to be a good company secretary or a good professional.
Yeah, look. So let me just talk about, before I get to the part on, being a good CS and what skills it takes, let me just talk a little bit about student life and some things that held me in good stead.
Yes.
One of the things that I always say is on planning, and I want to share one anecdote here. In one of the companies, our managing director used to say that, the future is so uncertain. What is the point of planning? He would ask all of us, right? Do you think planning is important? Anyway, what's going to happen in the future, you cannot predict, right? And all of us would look at him and be a little puzzled. And then he would say that the future is uncertain. That's why you plan. And it's not that because there's no use of planning because the future is uncertain. It's the other way around. So you plan because the future is uncertain, and that holds for any student in any stage of life. Have a game plan, have a plan A, have a plan B, and this can be in your mind, this can be on paper if you're someone who loves to scribble things down, etc. The second thing is on something that I've always adopted is do things right the first time. And this has always helped me in decomplicate, like you were saying, right? Everything sounds complicated. Whenever I've done something for the first time, I've given it my 150%, right? The second time I've done it, it has become that much more easier because the first time I gave it 100%, right? So if you approach everything that you do for the first time and do it really well at that time during your formative years, later on, it will become less and less complicated and you can really go far. And the third thing I want to say for a student is that, always carry that corporate law book in your hand. I remember that, I would not step out of my house on a training day without the BEAR Act. And by the end of that training period, that BEAR Act was so in such a bad shape that you couldn't even hand it down to someone else, right? And even today, not a day goes by when something is presented that I don't go and look back at the section. And it's amazing. Every time you have a new situation, you look at the same section, you think, oh, maybe there's a different interpretation here, right? So don't let go of that one book in your hand, which you will diligently refer. And one book is just an example. It can be the law that you're dealing with. I think a combination of these three will really help a student, Alok.
Just 1 second. So students, at least we had to carry the BEAR Act. Now you have the MCA ebook on Companies Act with the latest amendments. So it's on your phone itself. Yes. Yes, Vinay, please go ahead.
Absolutely. I would say three qualities of a good company secretary that I feel, and there will be several more, and I'm just touching only upon the ones that I think are relevant. One is ethics and integrity. I think that goes without saying that, by nature, corporates look at you as someone who has high value systems, who will keep the organization on the right track. That is to say that not all are aware of what the law is, and people want to run the business, and that's natural, right? But in the course of running the business, if something is not to be done in a particular way, the professional has to come and say what is the right way, right? And it's not just enough to say this is the wrong way. It is important to say this is the right way, right? A solution to enable the business, right? I think that it takes a lot of personal characteristic of ethics and values and integrity, and that is something that's a given for all professionals, and that's something that also transcends your personal life. And that is a hallmark of a company secretary, according to me. The second point is on the domain expertise, Alok. I think you touched upon it earlier. The need to reskill, upskill, the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. The pace at which regulations are changing, the pace at which events are happening in the world, and regulators are reacting to make changes in law to keep up with those events. Is increasingly becoming a daily affair. So, a professional has to be a subject matter expert. He or she has to take that interest to constantly update, to constantly be inquisitive. For example, there is a case law happening somewhere in the other part of the world. Take an interest and read. Maybe that gives you some aspect of principle that you were not aware of. Read an article, let's say, from some professor in a foreign university who has analyzed let's say, principles of governance, right? So that inquisitive mindset will go a long way in keeping you an SME or a domain expert, and that's really critical. Without that, a company secretary will not be able to survive. And the last skill I would say is stakeholder management. A CS is sort of at the center of dealing with multiple stakeholders. So you have your board and directors on the one hand, you have your internal management on the other hand, you have a set of auditors on the outside, you have your investors or shareholders, you have regulators, and several more, right? Each one of them have a different perspective on what governance is, what corporate law is. But the underlying law is the same, right? No matter how someone looks at it. So how do you manage the stakeholder objectives, the stakeholder expectations, and ensure that the company is on the right track? I think that is something that comes over time, but it is a key skill for a CS to have.
Yeah, so can you share at least one or two anecdotes with respect to the key skills to be successful as a company secretary from your work experience? Would you like to share one or two anecdotes of how you remember and how these skills were used?
Yeah, sure. So I think it always, I mean, I would, rather than sharing a specific experience, I would share one particular line of thought.
Yes.
Whenever you interact, let's say, with board members or independent directors, they are all very seasoned and come from very different and rich experience. They have seen 10 companies, they have seen a lot of business matters in their life, etc. Something that has always helped me in interaction with such senior professionals is to keep yourself updated, not only of the law, but what's happening around. The case laws, the current affairs. Let's say, the independent director is on the board of another company, and that company has gone through a similar matter. Let's say you have a very tricky situation in related party transactions, right? But a similar matter has happened in another company where the independent director is a director of, and you have gone and checked that. Maybe you've seen the public information, maybe you've spoken to that company secretary, etc. You do your homework, and when you discuss with the independent director, you actually present a full picture. And there is a lot of appreciation for that. So, I mean, this is one area where, your ability to constantly update comes into the picture, because, you become that much more a rounded professional.
Okay, great. So what do you think students should work on? What are the kind of soft skills they should work on? Of course, as we discussed multiple times during this interview and discussion, that your core technical skills is a given and that is required. Without that, you can't do much. But apart from this, what are the other soft skills? Again, I asked this with the background because initially you have spent quite a time in teaching and in presentations and public speaking. So with that angle, I'm asking this question of soft skills.
Sure, Alok. I think it's really important for CS professionals to have soft skills. And here's what I think are the top 2-3 soft skills that a CS professional should have. The first and foremost, I think, is good communication. And when I say communication, I mean both oral communication and written communication. I cannot overemphasize this enough. This one quality alone will be a strategic differentiator for you. You may be really good at your domain, you may be really good at laws, but if you're not good at communication, you will miss an edge in the market. Oral communication is something that is absolutely essential. Your ability to simplify the law for someone who does not understand the law. I think that I would put it that way. You are the expert when you go out in the market and work in a company. You're the one who's supposed to explain, let's say, to a business person who does not know anything about law as to what the law is. So your ability to understand the law, communicate the law in the simplest fashion, and make it a decision-making point. That is something that leads to ultimately a decision on what is to be done to comply with the law. So oral communication is very important. I would say even more important is our written communication, because we have seen enough and more number of times that the proof of pudding is actually in the documentary evidence, right? In every stage of judicial challenge, for example, that's the simplest example I can take. Decisions are made based on the evidence that you produce. So, for example, how well do you write something as simple as the minutes of a board meeting? How well do you write resolutions? How well do you prepare your annual reports and disclosures? Written communication is so important, and it just goes beyond having a good vocabulary. It goes to the heart of understanding the matter, understanding who your audience are, presenting something in the simplest manner, but at the same time being legally compliant. So I would say written and oral communication skills is really important, and that's something we should constantly work on. I am doing it even today. I'll do it for the rest of my career, is to work on my communication skills. Second point I would say is to develop a solution-oriented mindset. And I think that's one important soft skill that a CS professional should have. It is one thing to know the law and what can't be done, but what companies are looking for is someone who can enable running the business in a compliant manner. So it's not enough to say that, for example, something cannot be done, it is prohibited under law, but to come up with a solution on how something can be done in a compliant manner, right? And that takes some amount of effort and involvement, a solution-oriented mindset. That's a good soft skill to have. And the last one I will say is on networking, Alok. I think all of us should do it. I personally didn't do it the first 3 years of my CS life when I was doing my BCom, because I was completely oblivious to what was happening in the CS world. But after that, like you said, I really did make an effort to network, to connect with CS professionals, to go out and do public speaking, to teach, to interact with fellow students, fellow professionals, to interact with seniors, etc. Our profession is a niche skill where people work on the basis of exchanging best practices, because the laws sometimes are gray, and you need to know what others are doing. You need to know what the good practices are. So a network like this helps a lot, and I have greatly benefited from networking. So these are my top 3 skills, soft skills, Alok.
Yeah, so I think we got all that. I'll continue. Okay. So Vinay has been telling us about the soft skills, and he touched upon networking. And what was interesting is he told, of course, oral communication is required, and again, that is given, but written communication is something which every person has to work on, especially a company secretary, because end of the day, you're drafting, whether it's a simple email, whether it is a notice for a meeting, whether it is a shareholders agreement, any document, end of the day, whatever you understand, you're putting it down on paper, and written communication skills is important. And other thing which Vinay shared is that how do you simplify the law, make the law simple for people who are not necessarily from a law background, but for business decisions, the legal understanding is important. And I think these soft skills and other skills which he mentioned was very interesting. Vinay, you have told us a lot about your journey, and from the day when your dad told to meet a person who had just finished CACS and CMA at a very young age, and how you took it up after +2, and how you finished along with your BCom, and all the different stories of your training and working, and how you were the main compliance officer of a listed company, where being just around 24 or 25 years old, and how to talk with seasoned professionals, everything you have told us. Now, as the closing remarks, what is your advice to people who will be looking up to you or who want to do this journey? And everyone is going through different struggles. Somebody says, I'm from a rural setting, I'm from a small town, will I be able to do it? And somebody says that this course is too challenging and it's too difficult. So for all these people, what is your message and how they can reach a position, something like you have?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Alok. I think some of the basic things are always a given in any walks of life, and that is, hard work, commitment, being diligent and perseverant. I think that is one thing that has always had me in good stead, being hardworking and being perseverant. Things are difficult only up to a certain point, right? Beyond that, you push through. And it is only that you have not reached that point yet where you can push through. So it is just a matter of time before you get there. I have no doubt that all of our young professionals, if they put in the amount of hard work and be perseverant, that they will be successful at some point of time. The other thing that I would like to say is that, a professional should take a deep interest in knowledge sharing. We are a knowledge-based professional. And Alok, you're doing a great job in, teaching and trying to impart education and, guide young students. I think more and more people take interest in that. It is on one side, you're helping the profession, you're sharing knowledge, etc. But on the other side, you're actually developing your own knowledge. You're making yourself a better professional. Teaching has taught me a lot. When I used to take a class, there would be 10 different questions on one topic that I would have never thought of, just because there are 10 different perspectives in the class. And that was a great learning for me, to be able to be challenged like that, to be able to learn the law, etc. It made me a better professional. So I think somewhere, if you invest in knowledge sharing, it will help you become a good professional. And I would also say that students should focus on building a personal brand. It's something that is, I think, less spoken, but it should be given more importance. Like, tomorrow when someone hears the name, let's say an Alok or a Vinay, just for the sake of example, they should be able to associate you with something. And that something is what you stand for as an individual. That is something you should work towards building. That requires effort, that requires energy and time, etc. But build a personal brand yourself. This profession is as much about the law and the companies you work for as it is about the profession that you are and how strong your value systems, your skills are. So do not lose sight of that personal brand as you go along your journey. Because when you combine all these, right, when you combine hard work, perseverance, diligence, when you combine knowledge sharing, when you combine building a personal brand, I think from a practical standpoint, I'm not getting into the things that you would typically look at, but practical standpoint, this will elevate you from a position where you are to a much better professional in the future.
Yeah, I think what you told is very interesting. I'd like to just share two small examples when you talked about knowledge sharing and how important it is for us to be part of knowledge sharing. So I was teaching this Section 8 company concept in company law. So in practice, it is not very often that you get to do Section 8 work. Of course, you will have few clients. But the very next day, we had a meeting where one of the companies who we are assisting wanted to incorporate a Section 8 company and wanted to understand everything about it. So just the previous day I finished class, so I could just tell him with the greatest depth, and they were very impressed. So knowledge sharing, though it was for my own passion and interest to teach, it helped me in my profession of being a practicing CS and many more things like that for producer companies, things which you would not handle on a day-to-day basis. It has helped. And even Vinay has shared about knowledge sharing. And the new point, which none of our guests have shared, and I like Vinay told about that, is creating a personal brand. And you can do it over time. It is not that you will be able to do it in 6 months or a year. If you keep putting the efforts, like Vinay said, people should associate you with that something. What is that something will define who you are, what you are, and how your career will shape. So that was Vinay MA, who is presently working with the Wipro group. But more than that, what was very interesting is how he started at a very early age. And he also suggested each one of you to start as early as possible. Suppose you're 30 when you watch it, obviously you can't start when you're 20, but you should start as early. And whenever you get to know about the CS course, there's a huge gamut of opportunities. Vinay shared with us not only his journey of being a compliance officer at a young age, but presently the role of a CS and the manager role, which is doing it Wipro right now, and the changing gamut of the CS profession, how securities law and the regulatory regime is changing, which is actually good for the CS profession, how there is more attention for corporate governance, especially with the media getting involved and the shareholders becoming more active. In fact, the Companies Act itself is much more supportive of the shareholders. If you look at it, even in the World Bank ease of doing business, even when our ratings were very, very low, of course, now the ratings have improved. Even when our ratings were very low, Indian company law was the highest in minority shareholder protection and things with respect to shareholder protection. So with all this, I think it was a great discussion, Vinay. You have shared a lot of insights. There'll be a lot of people inspired by this interview, and I'm sure they'll be able to do well. We really look forward to having more such interactions with maybe specific topics. It'll be very interesting to discuss with you.
Thank you so much, Alok. Thanks for having me. And I must appreciate the initiative that you've taken to bring a lot of these experiences to the front. And it will really help all of us as a group. I think each one of us learn from the others' mistakes and experiences and good experiences as well. So great job that you're doing. Keep up the good work.
So that was Vinay on the world of company secretaries. For more such episodes, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, Excel Academy, and you'll be able to learn from the best of company secretaries in India and even abroad. So all the best to you and hope to see you in the next episode.